Hey, Professor Wills here. Let's continue looking at our unit on art history of Mesopotamia. We were just digging into the Sumerians of Mesopotamia, and we were looking at an example of early architecture in the form of ziggurats, which are these elevated temple platforms from which the Sumerian priests and high officials were able to interact with their city-states, god or goddess. So let's get back to that PowerPoint and we'll examine a couple enduring examples that were discovered in the early 20th century by archaeologists. All right, moving on to the PowerPoint here. Here we go. Very good. All right, we're back, everybody, continuing from that previous lecture. All right, so ziggurat again is a temple platform that you can see with its sloped, almost trapezoidal sides. At the very top, you find they would build the actual temple edifice itself. It's there that the Sumerian priests and other high officials had a waiting room contained within that temple that they believed their patron city, states, god or goddess could descend and interact with them. So it is, again, one of many examples of religious structures associated with the divine that achieve great heights, and even in the ancient world, even going back as far as 3000 BCE, which we're looking at with our first example, the White Temple in Ziggurat at Uruk. Now, the temple is no longer there, but what you have to imagine is that sloped trapezoidal platform built from mud bricks. Again, no indigenous stone, which is why it looks so much like a decomposed, hillside, something you would see in the California desert. But there would have been thousands of mud bricks made to create that ziggurat, and then the temple above would be placed. That no longer exists, but what you have to also imagine is surrounding it is the city-state of Uruk, one of the famous Sumerian city-states. It had a population, they say, as large as 40,000 people, which is just astounding. And again, all of this taking place in present day, what we now call Iraq. That is the region of Mesopotamia, part of the region of Mesopotamia we'll be examining in this unit. And again, the location of our first civilization, the Sumerians. So the height of the actual platform, they think, was about 40 feet above ground. And then moving our slides forward a little bit further, what you can see is an artist diagram of what they think it might have looked like. So there would be these stairs that would take the visitor up to the very top where the White Temple is, but again, narrow, running axially up to the very top, but not meant for the average Sumerian citizen. Again, just exclusive access to those who have the rank and privilege to interact with that god or goddess who may or may not appear in the waiting room within the walls of that temple. What's also interesting is that the corners of the ziggurat are oriented to the cardinal points of the compass, so north, south, east, and west. Very much interested in, I guess, aligning with the concepts of the cardinal points. This will play a more significant role with later civilizations that we'll talk about, particularly themes of the East, where New Day begins, and the West, where it goes away, kind of birth and death, themes like that, but still not determined in the choice in regard to the Sumerians doing the same thing, but obviously a connection to that concept. What you find also here is that though this one still exists in part. Another famous one you may have heard of, the Tower of Babel, from the Bible, was a real ziggurat, even larger than the White Temple in Ziggurat that you find in Uruk. This is a corny Renaissance painting showing you what they imagined, these European artists, back in likely the 14th the 15th or 16th centuries. The idea, again, the arrogance of a king of Babel being able to reach such heights that he could interact with God, and of course God sentenced everyone to speak different languages, so they were speaking in tongues and couldn't understand each other, so the project fell apart. And again, the king lost his workforce and couldn't build this monstrosity that was meant to be a monument to his own giant ego. We know many politicians like that, don't we? All right. But a second example I do want to show you as one that did get partially restored in the 1980s when Saddam Hussein was in power in Iraq, is this one. And it's the Ziggurat at Ur. And again, looking quite a while ago, but this is a good 1,000 years newer, if you could say that, compared to the White Temple and Ziggurat. So we're now looking at 2100 BCE for the approximate date of this example. It's slightly larger. Its sides extend about 50 feet instead of 40, as in the previous example. And what no longer exists and was not recreated was the temple that sat on the very top. So you're just looking at the platform itself. So its condition looks fabulous because it was restored. But instead of one stairway taking you up, you have three. So one running up the center and then two along the sides. But again, the same practice was in place when the Sumerians still existed, and they're in their city-state system 1,000 years later. Again, exclusive access to only those who had the power. There is a view from above of this example of another ziggurat. It's designed slightly different, but the concept basically the same. An artist's rendering of that same ziggurat gives you a sense of what they think that temple would have looked like. And again, the waiting room to interact with that god or goddess. So, the ziggurat, an example of the first religious architecture that we've seen in this unit on the history of ancient art, beginning in Mesopotamia with the Sumerians. Now, what's an example of some of the gods or goddesses they might have worshipped? So, let's take a look at an early example of sculpture. So this one is simply called Female Head. It might be a representation of a Sumerian goddess, Inanna. So there's a question mark there, and they're not sure. It was discovered in Uruk, one of the city-states associated with the Sumerian civilization, and she dates to about 3,200 to 3,000 BCE. What you find with this particular marble sculpture is that she's fairly diminutive. The face is about 8 inches, so I'd say slightly smaller than life size. And what you find too is the medium from which she was sculpted is unusual. It's not unusual in our world, but it was in theirs, and that is marble. Marble didn't exist in Iraq. It would have had to have been imported. So to import something indicates that it cost more money. It was a more expensive medium worthy of a sculpture of a god or goddess, right? So that makes sense. Now, the other thing you might notice about this particular sculpture is that the face is missing certain features. Often in figurative sculpture of humans, the eyes are missing. They would have been inset with some kind of semi-precious stones or quartz to mimic the look of an eyeball. And she's also missing, with her enormous unibrow, right? She is missing whatever would have been inlaid to decorate her brow line. The other thing you might notice as well is that she has this sort of slot running down the center of her crown of her head. And that is because they think that she might have been adorned with a headdress, not unlike that one example I showed you that was discovered in the tomb excavations for Queen Puabi. So you can imagine this beautiful gold headdress would have been placed on this representation of a goddess. Now, she also has a hole under her neck, as if she may have been originally mounted to a wooden body, and likely you could imagine that body would be adorned with beautiful clothing and fabrics. Maybe the face would have been painted and bejeweled. That kind of thing likely happened. But of course, all that remains these thousands of years later is the pure, beautiful marble that you see here. The back of the head remains unsculpted. So it's not a sculpture in the round, meaning the whole thing is sculpted. It has just remained flat and reminiscent of the original block of stone from which this was created. So this tells us, of course, that the Sumerians had, along with the Ziggurats, it indicates that they had a religion, that they believed in not only male gods, but female goddesses as well. What's also interesting about Inanna is she's the whole package. She was the goddess of both love and war. Wow, pretty powerful stuff. That is definitely a theme to this day in reality or in our favorite escape entertainments, right? Okay, moving on also, I wanted to get into additional sculptures here. So in my next video, we're going to take a look at additional sculptures by the Sumerians, and then we'll take a look at some of their art that one could describe as a bit of propaganda promoting their Sumerian king. So stay tuned for that mini video lecture coming up next.